The night was warm and vibrant, with the city illuminated by countless lights that danced to its rhythm. Still charged with the energy from her encounter with Daniel, Katy decided she didn't want to return home just yet. Something inside her pushed her to keep exploring, to follow that spark that now seemed to guide her every step. She walked without a fixed destination, her heels softly clicking against the pavement as her golden blonde hair swayed with the evening breeze. The city felt different, more alive, more full of possibilities. Eventually, her wandering led her to an art gallery, its entrance adorned with warm lights and soft music drifting onto the street. Intrigued, Katy decided to step inside. The interior of the gallery was a fascinating contrast of shadows and light. Modern art pieces hung on the walls, some vibrant and colorful, others dark and minimalist, but all of them shared one quality: they evoked emotion. Katy allowed herself to wander, taking her time with each piece and letting the emotions they stirred wash over her. That's when she saw him. A few steps away, a man stood in front of a particularly abstract painting, filled with chaotic strokes of red, black, and gold. He was tall, with an elegant silhouette and a relaxed demeanor, but what caught Katy's attention most was the intensity with which he studied the artwork, as if unraveling all its secrets. Driven by a mix of curiosity and boldness, Katy approached him until she was standing by his side. He turned his head slightly, noticing her presence, and a small but charming smile appeared on his face. "This piece has something, doesn't it?" he said, his voice deep and soft, like a murmur in the night. Katy met his gaze, letting her emerald-green eyes lock onto his steel-gray ones, enigmatic and captivating. "Something you can't quite explain but can't ignore either," she replied, her tone both sincere and subtly seductive. The conversation flowed naturally, much to her surprise. He introduced himself as Victor, a photographer who found constant inspiration in art. They talked about the pieces, the artists, and then moved on to deeper topics: dreams, desires, and the beauty found in the unexpected. As they spoke, Victor mentioned that he was working on a photography series about sensuality and human connection. He offered to show Katy his studio, located on the upper floor of the gallery. For a moment, she hesitated, but something about the calm in his eyes and the confidence in his voice convinced her to accept. The studio was a spacious room illuminated by soft, golden lights and furnished with a minimalist aesthetic. A camera sat atop a tripod, and the walls were lined with black and white photographs capturing intimate, emotional moments. Katy was captivated by the images, recognizing in them the vulnerability and power she was beginning to discover in herself. Victor watched her silently, as if studying her every movement. Finally, he stepped closer and said, "Your presence would be perfect for this series. You have something that can't be taught, something authentic." Katy laughed softly, surprised by the compliment but intrigued by the idea. After a moment of reflection, she nodded. "What do I have to do?" she asked, her voice steady but full of anticipation. Victor explained there was no script, no specific pose she needed to take. He simply wanted to capture her as she was, letting her essence shine. Katy, who not long ago would have found the idea intimidating, felt surprisingly comfortable. She removed her shoes and walked barefoot on the wooden floor, letting her movements be guided by the soft music that filled the studio. The camera captured every detail: the way her golden blonde hair fell across her back, the sparkle in her emerald-green eyes under the gentle light, and the curve of her faint smile. Victor gave little direction, allowing the moment to flow naturally. Katy felt free, powerful, as if the lens wasn't judging her but celebrating her. When the session ended, Victor approached her with the camera in hand, showing her some of the images he had taken. Katy looked at them in silence, surprised by what she saw. There was an authenticity in the photographs, an intensity she hadn't recognized in herself before. "You're incredibly real," Victor said, meeting her gaze directly. "I don't think I've ever met anyone like you." The air between them was charged with more than gratitude. Katy, who had always been cautious in situations like this, allowed herself to stay in the moment. Victor wasn't just a photographer. He was someone who seemed to understand parts of her she was only beginning to explore. When Katy left the gallery, the night breeze caressed her skin, cooling the warmth of the experience. She walked slowly through the streets, carrying her red heels in her hand, her golden blonde hair swaying gently in the wind. The city seemed brighter, more alive, as if mirroring what was happening inside her. Back at home, she stood before her mirror, still mesmerized by what she had seen in the photographs. That night hadn't been about Victor, nor even about the art. It had been about her ability to open up and let herself be carried away by the unknown. Katy knew then that every step she took brought her closer to discovering who she truly was. With a soft smile on her lips, she turned off the lights and prepared herself for whatever the future had in store.